Good morning, dear students. Myself Dhaval Jadhav from SN Patel Institute of Technology and Research Center. I am going to explore the functions of C programming from the subject Computer Programming and Utilization. The topics to be covered are Introduction, Function Prototype, Function Call, Categories of Function, few examples, and paper solutions from previous GTU question papers. Let's start with a introduction to functions. Any complex problem is easily solved by dividing that complex problem into parts. Now that part is considered as a function. We can consider that those parts as a function in a C programming, which is we called a structured programming. To understand this, let us take one simple example. Suppose I want to make a summation of 4 numbers. What I will do is, suppose I am having 4 numbers which are stored in 4 variables A, B, C and D. A is having 10, B is having 20, C is having 30, D is having 40. Now this is my problem. To do the summation of 4 numbers, what I will do is I will make one function, suppose sum underscore AB, which will do the summation of first 2 numbers. The result of this will be stored in one more variable, result1. For the next 2 numbers, what I will do, I will make one more function, sum underscore CD, which accepts C and D as a variable. It will do the summation of C and D and give the results that will be stored in a new variable, result2. Finally, I will do the summation of result1 plus result2. So my problem will get resolved. This is how functions can be implemented in a C programming. Advantages. Why do we need a functions? A function separates the concept, that is what it is done, from the implementation, that is how it is done. Functions makes the programs very easier to understand, that is it reduces the complexity of a program. Functions also gives the concept of code reusability, that is what we can say, that using functions the same code can be used repeatedly in a program. So code reusability concept is implemented using functions. Function prototype. As you know, to define any identifier in a C programming, what we need to follow certain rules to declare those variables. In the same way, to define a function in a C programming, you have to again follow the rules. Now those rules are known as function prototypes. The first and foremost important thing that you have to take care is return type. That is, over here the return type is void. Then next is function name. Over here the function name is print message and 2 braces. Within that 2 braces you can use the arguments, that the arguments can be passed within those 2 braces. Now what those arguments are, we'll see in the next slides. over here return type. Now what exactly return type is? After performing certain operations, function may return a value. Now a value must be having a data type, so that data type must be matched with a return type of a function. For example, if I am doing the summation of the two numbers with this function, now some underscore ab function will return some integer value that is stored in result a. So in that case, I can say the return type for some underscore ab function will be integer, because it returns the summation of two numbers, and that is again a integer value. So what I want to say is, after performing the certain operations within a function, whatever the return type of that value must be matched with a return type of a function. And if function returns no value, that means if a function returns nothing, in that case the function's return type will be void. A function call. That function call is what? It passes a program control to a function. That means the actual logic will be executed after function call. Function call must be matched with a prototype of that function. That means whatever we have defined previously, that function definition must be matched with a function call. For example, suppose in a void main I am declaring one function display which returns nothing. That means the return type is void. This is function name and these are the two braces. So this is function prototype. Now suppose I am declaring one variable a. I am giving some value to variable a. Now what I am doing is I am making a function call. Lastly get ch and void main over. From this line the compiler will jump over to the actual implementation of a function that is written outside the void main. That means over here what I did is, this is function prototype. According to that I have declared one function void display. Since as you can see this is the actual implementation, since over here no return statements, that means this function, this display function returns nothing. That's why the return type is void. In the next line what I did, integer a, I am giving some value a equals to 10. Over here this is called what we can say function call. यहाँ से function call होगा और उसका actual implementation compiler को मिलेगा outside the void main. Outside void main उसका actual implementation पे jump होगा. कौन सी line से? Display function call की line से. So what will happen? Display and this prototype, it must be matched. If I am passing some arguments, suppose मैंने a वेरिएबल को पास किया यहाँ फंक्शन कॉल से, डिस्प्ले इनटू ब्रैकेट a, दैट मीन्स मैंने एक आर्ग्यूमेंट पास की वेरिएबल a फंक्शन कॉल में से. सो व्हाट विल हैपन, दिस इज नॉट मैचिंग विथ दिस प्रोटोटाइप. This both must be matched. In this case your compiler will give you the error. That is how I want to say is that function prototype must be matched with function call. Now this is correct. Categories of the function. There are 4 basic categories. Generally, functions is divided into 4 categories. First is a function with no arguments and with no return values. Function with arguments and no return values. Function with arguments and one return value. Function with no arguments and again one return value. These are the 4 basic categories of a function. A function, that most important thing is function can never return more than one values. That means function cannot return array, function cannot return string, character strings. It at the most function can return only one value at a time. Argument list. As I said, within a bracket. These are the 2 braces. Within that 2 braces, I can write the parameter, or in other words, arguments. This is called argument. This is of type, for example, if I want to make a prototype, display, this means that I am going to use a display function in my program which will be having one argument which is of type integer, and this program will return no value. That means the return type is void. In this case, I am having one display function which will be having 2 arguments. One is integer, one is float, and again this function will return no values. So these are called the arguments. Any function can have one or more than one arguments. When the function is invoked, at that time, invoked in the sense when function call will be done, at that time the arguments can be a constant, a variable, or even an expression. Now what does it mean? Let's take one example. In my void main, integer a equals to 10, I am having one method display which will be having 2 arguments. Now I am making a function call in the next line with 2 arguments. One is integer and second is also integer. Get ch. From this line again, as I said, the compiler will jump over the actual implementation of a function which will be there outside the void main. Outside void main आपको फंक्शन का एक्चुअल इम्प्लीमेंटेशन लिखना है. इंटीजर x, इंटीजर y. दिस इज एक्चुअल इम्प्लीमेंटेशन. यहाँ पे 2 आर्ग्यूमेंट्स मैंने लिखा हुआ है प्रोटोटाइप में. 2 आर्ग्यूमेंट्स होगी मेरे फंक्शन में. फंक्शन कॉल के टाइम भी मैंने 2 आर्ग्यूमेंट्स दी है. दोनों इंटीजर टाइप की है, सिंस a इज ऑल्सो हैविंग अ वैल्यू इंटीजर. तो दोनों इंटीजर वैल्यूज, 2 आर्ग्यूमेंट्स. एक्चुअल फंक्शन इम्प्लीमेंटेशन में मैंने फिर से सेम चीज़ की है, इंटीजर x, इंटीजर y. x में क्या कॉपी होगा? 10 विच इज़ अ कांस्टेंट, सो वो कॉपी होगा x में, और a की वैल्यू कॉपी होगी y में. प्रिंट एफ %d x, y। इन दैट केस अगर ये प्रोग्राम मैं एग्जीक्यूट करूँ तो मुझे आउटपुट विंडो पे मिलेगा, ये मेरी आउटपुट विंडो है, तो आउटपुट विंडो पे मुझे मिलेगा 10 और 10, बिकॉज द वैल्यू 10 फंक्शन कॉल से वैल्यू 10 x में स्टोर होगी, फंक्शन कॉल से वैल्यू a y में स्टोर होगी। So you will be having 10, 10. What I want to say is फंक्शन कॉल के टाइम आप कांस्टेंट वैल्यू, वेरिएबल या कोई एक्सप्रेशन भी यूज कर सकते हो। यूजिंग आर्ग्यूमेंट्स, हियर आई एम हैविंग वन एग्जाम्पल। मैंने एक फंक्शन बनाया है प्रिंट मैसेज, इन वो आर्ग्यूमेंट्स लेगा, इंटीजर एक आर्ग्यूमेंट है, वेरिएबल काउंटर। नाउ रिटर्न टाइप फॉर दिस फंक्शन इज वॉइड, दैट मीन्स कि ये फंक्शन कुछ भी रिटर्न नहीं करेगा। इंटीजर नंबर, printf enter an integer. This program will accept certain integer value and that will be stored in a variable number. यहाँ पे प्रिंट मैसेज है नंबर, दिस इज द प्रोटोटाइप। दैट मीन्स कि यहाँ पे आप एक्चुअल इम्प्लीमेंटेशन करोगे तो क्या होगा, लेट्स सी। Suppose this is your output window. Void main, in that print enter an integer. So in that case I am entering one value, print enter integer. इन दैट केस आई एम, यहाँ पे आपका कर्सर ब्लिंक होगा, मैं यहाँ पे 10 लिख के एंटर की प्रेस करूँगा। सो क्या होगा, इन दैट केस दैट नंबर 10 विल बी स्टोर्ड इन अ वेरिएबल